Salam, peace be upon you. My name is Mohammed Layiq Sediqi, the father of Holophase. Remember the language we are learning. There is one field, phi, the holophase, one continuous cyclic movement from which all of reality unfolds. When phi begins to change, its first derivatives appear, and with them the three dimensions show themselves at once. Time as omega, space as k, and motion as v, built from both. Every higher derivative is a finer question about how phi changes, and each one casts three shadows together: a time shadow, a space shadow, and a motion shadow. These echoes mix and weave into one another, forming the patterns we call fields, particles, bodies, thoughts, and worlds. In this picture, everything that exists is a living tapestry of phi, endlessly echoing through its derivatives and their dimensional shadows. Today, we focus on one essential component of the epistemic firewall. In this part 30, we begin the culminating season of the firewall, the diagnosis of failure. We define the critical distinction: falsifying sentences versus falsifying rules. This is the firewall mechanism that acts as the master diagnostician when a prediction goes wrong. The core revelation is operational and vital. We must separate sentence failure, measurement, reconstruction, window failure. The phi sentence was not honestly reconstructed. Rule failure. The constraint itself fails inside the rule's declared scope. The skill you will gain is that of a failure diagnostician. You will learn to dissect the mismatch between prediction and observation, to trace the source of the discrepancy, and to determine whether the fault lies in our description of phi or in our purported law about phi. Our core question is precise. When a rule's prediction disagrees with a phi sentence, how do we know if the rule is wrong or if the sentence is wrong? This question targets the moment of crisis in science. A licensed rule, G, with a clear scope object, SG, is used to make a prediction. A new measurement is taken, producing a phi sentence, S new. The prediction and the sentence disagree. The mismatch is outside declared uncertainties. Something has failed. The immediate human reaction is often to question the rule. But the firewall demands a disciplined, two-stage diagnostic. The failure could be in one of two utterly different places. One, sentence failure, S failure. The problem is in the pipeline from phi to the phi sentence, S new. The measurement window, W, was flawed. The signal processing introduced an artifact. The calibration drifted. The reconstruction algorithm failed. The phi sentence, S new, does not faithfully represent the actual state of phi in the target context. It is a faulty report. The rule, G, may be perfectly correct, but it is being compared to bad data. 2. Rule failure, G failure. The problem is in the rule itself. The phi sentence, S new, is honest and accurate. The target context is within the rule's declared scope, SG. Yet, the rule's predicted omega k v pattern does not match the observed pattern. The constraint encoded by G does not hold for this instance of phi. The rule is falsified within its claimed domain. Why is this distinction necessary? The failure mode it prevents is the premature retirement of true rules and the persistent survival of false ones. If we mistake every S failure for a G failure, we discard beautiful, correct laws because of faulty thermometers, misaligned telescopes, or buggy code. Conversely, if we dismiss every mismatch as measurement error without auditing the sentence pipeline, we protect false rules from legitimate falsification. The diagnostic protocol forces us to fix our instruments first before we declare a revolution in understanding. In holophase terms, the pipeline is Fa, window W, raw signal, processing, Phi sentence S. A sentence failure is a break in this chain. A rule failure occurs after a valid sentence S is correctly extracted, but the rule GS, which makes a claim about relationships between derivatives of phi, does not hold. In the triunity, we can diagnose the type of sentence failure. Omega sentence failure, a failure in temporal reconstruction. The clock drifted, the sampling rate was too low, aliasing, the event timing was missynchronized, or a smoothing filter erased the crucial fast oscillation. The omega shadow in S is not the true omega shadow of phi. K sentence failure, a failure in spatial structural reconstruction. The pixel resolution was too coarse, the coordinate transformation was wrong, a lens was misaligned, an interpolation algorithm created false features, or a sensor was dead. The K shadow in S is distorted. A failure in motion, propagation reconstruction. The reference frame was not inertial. A velocity calibration was off. A coupling constant in the instrument was miscalculated, or a Doppler correction was misapplied. The V shadow in S is inaccurate. A rule failure, in contrast, is diagnosed when no honest pipeline can reconcile the omega k-V relations within the rule scope. After you have fixed all plausible omega, k, and V sentence failures, the predicted relationship between the corrected shadows still does not hold. The mismatch is in the constraint itself. This connects decisively to energy as tally. Many apparent energy violations are sentence-level artifacts. The energy ledger is a derived accounting from the omega kV patterns. If those patterns are mismeasured, the ledger will not balance. For example, a temperature sensor with a drifting calibration, an omega drift, will report a false heat input, making it seem energy is not conserved. A pressure gauge placed in a turbulent region, a K placement error, will mismeasure work done, breaking the energy tally. An accelerometer in a rotating frame, a V frame error, will record fictitious forces, leading to spurious energy generation. The energy mismatch is a symptom, not a conclusion. It tells you to check your sentence pipeline. Only after you have verified the honesty of all omega k-V measurements in the energy budget can an energy violation be considered evidence for rule failure. The operational interpretation of this is the daily practice of systematics checks and instrument validation in advanced laboratories. Before claiming the discovery of a new particle that violates the standard model, a potential rule failure, collaborations at CERN spend years verifying that their detectors are calibrated, their simulations of backgrounds are correct, and their reconstruction algorithms are robust. They are hunting for S failures. Only after exhausting these checks can a discrepancy be taken seriously as a candidate for G failure. The firewall role, therefore, is that of the failure diagnostician. When a mismatch is reported between a rule G and a sentence S, you initiate a diagnostic tree. You first audit the sentence pipeline S. You check for omega, K, and V reconstruction failures. You apply the tacit assumption extraction protocol to the measurement process. You demand recalibration, independent measurement, and pipeline verification. If the mismatch persists after this audit, you then examine the rule G. You check if the target context is truly within SG. You check for confounding, fossil constraints, or scope overreach. Only then can you declare a rule failure. Let us formalize this. Let P be the prediction of rule G for the target context. Let O be the observed phi sentence S new. The mismatch is delta equals O minus P. The diagnostic protocol is 1. Hypothesis H1, sentence failure. There exists an error model E for the observation pipeline such that O equals O true plus E, where O true is the true phi sentence and E is the error. The corrected observation, O succeeded equals O minus E, agrees with P within uncertainty. 2. Hypothesis H2, rule failure. For all admissible error models E, consistent with the pipeline's known physics and noise characteristics, O succeeded disagrees with P systematically. The protocol tests H1 first. It tries to construct a plausible E. If a simple measurable E, a calibration offset, a timing shift, resolves delta, the failure is sentence level. If no plausible E can explain delta, then H2, rule failure, becomes the leading hypothesis. Let us state with crystalline clarity what is allowed and what is forbidden at this gate. What is allowed? When a mismatch occurs, you are allowed and required to first investigate potential sentence failures. You are allowed to recalibrate instruments, reprocess data with different algorithms, check for environmental interference, and repeat the experiment. You are allowed to propose an error model, E, if you can provide independent evidence for it. For example, a second different instrument also shows a drift. What is forbidden? You may not immediately declare a rule falsified without a serious audit of the sentence pipeline. Dismiss a mismatch as measurement error without identifying and quantifying a specific plausible error model, E. Adjust the rule's parameters or scope ad hoc to fit a faulty sentence. This is believing harder. Ignore the diagnostic protocol and let cultural preference decide. For example, clinging to a beloved theory despite clear sentence-corrected evidence against it. What happens when the check fails? The license consequence is binary and decisive, based on the diagnosis. If sentence failure is diagnosed, the sentence pipeline must be patched. The rule's license is unaffected, but the faulty phi sentence is invalidated. The experiment must be redone with the corrected pipeline. If rule failure is diagnosed, the rule must be downgraded or retired. Its license is revoked or severely narrowed. Its scope SG must be reduced to exclude the failing regime, or the rule is archived entirely. The cardinal firewall axiom is enforced. Never believe harder. Either fix the measurement or downgrade the rule. Now we must state the explicit prediction and falsification for this diagnostic framework. Prediction, if the failure is sentence level. If you fix the window license or the reconstruction pipeline, if you correct the omega, k, or v error, then omega k/v coherence returns and energy tallies stabilize again. The mismatch delta vanishes or reduces to random noise. The rule's predictions and the corrected sentences agree once more. Falsification condition for the rule itself. If, after correcting all identifiable measurement, representation, and scope issues, if, after applying the full firewall audit to the sentence, the omega k/v mismatch persists systematically, then the rule itself is falsified in that domain. The rule has failed on the territory it claimed to govern. A profound historical example is the discovery of Neptune. In the early 19th century, the orbit of Uranus, the observed phi sentence, S Uranus, did not match the predictions of Newtonian gravity, the rule G Newton. The mismatch delta was significant. Many assumed a sentence failure. Perhaps the star charts for Uranus were wrong, a K failure, or there were observational errors. But after repeated, careful observations, the mismatch remained. Two mathematicians, Adams and Leverrier, considered the other possibility, rule failure. But instead of rejecting Newton, they considered a third option within the rule's framework. What if the sentence S Uranus was correct, but incomplete? The mismatch could be due to an unobserved component of Phi, another planet, whose gravitational influence, a V effect, was not included in the prediction P. They predicted the position of this hidden component, Neptune. When telescopes looked there, they found it. The failure was not a failure of the rule G Newton, nor a simple failure of the Uranus sentence. It was a failure of the initial conditions used in the prediction. The sentence for the full system, Sun, known planets, and Neptune, agreed with the rule. This is a nuanced case. The rule was correct, but the predictive model, the initial conditions, was incomplete. The diagnostic protocol, properly followed, saved Newton's law and expanded our map of the solar system. Let us explore an analogy from the critical domain of managing the flow of the Helmand River for irrigation and flood control, relying on a network of historical hydrological rules and sensor data. The rule GET is a licensed hydraulic model of the river. It encapsulates relationships between upstream water level, variable A, gate openings at the Kajaki Dam, variable B, and downstream water level at Gereshk, variable C. Its scope, SG, includes normal seasonal flows, omega scope, the river channel geometry, K scope, and flow velocities below flood stage, V scope. It has been used reliably for years. 1 year, during the spring melt, the model predicts that with current upstream levels A and gate settings B, the downstream level C at Gereshk should be 5.2 meters. The sensor at Gereshk reports COBS equals 5.8 meters. A significant mismatch, delta equals 0.6 meters. Panic ensues. The rule is failing. Should they open the gates wider to lower the level, risking downstream flooding? Or is the sensor wrong? The chief engineer, acting as the failure diagnostician, initiates the protocol. Step 1. Audit for sentence failure. She examines the phi sentence, C OBS. Omega check. Is the sensor reporting at the correct time? Yes, timestamps are synchronized. K check. Has the sensor shifted? She sends a team. They find the sensor pole has been partially buried in silt after a minor bank collapse. The sensor's 0 point is off by 0.5 meters. This is a K sentence failure. The true water level is the observed 5.8 meters minus the 0.5 meter silt error equals 5.3 meters. V check. Is the water velocity affecting the pressure sensor? Calibration logs show this is negligible for this flow. The corrected observation, C analysis equals 5.3 meters. The mismatch, delta, is now only 0.1 meters, which is within the model's stated uncertainty of plus minus 0.15 meters for spring melt conditions. Prediction of sentence level failure confirmed. Fix the K reconstruction error, reposition the sensor, and omega of K of V coherence returns. The energy tally, water volume in, volume out, now balances within error. The rule G is vindicated. The intervention is to repair the sensor, not to radically change gate operations based on a faulty sentence. Now consider a different scenario. The sensor is verified to be correct. The water level is truly 5.8 meters. The diagnostician looks for other sentence failures. Perhaps the upstream level sensor A is wrong? It checks out. Perhaps the gate opening B is not as commanded? A physical inspection confirms the gates are at the recorded setting. All 5 sentences, A, B, C, pass the audit. Step 2. Consider rule failure. The target context is within scope. It's a normal spring melt. The engineer checks for confounding. Has there been a sudden, unmeasured water input? A survey finds no new irrigation diversions or tributary flows. She checks for a fossil constraint. Is the river channel geometry, K-scope, still valid? Aerial survey data from the previous winter reveals that a major flood the prior autumn significantly scoured the riverbed near Gereshk, deepening and widening the channel, a change in the K boundary condition. This altered the stage-discharge relationship, the core of Rule G. The rule's K-scope assumed the old channel geometry. The system has moved outside the rule's license scope. Falsification condition met. After correcting measurement and identifying the changed boundary condition, a scope violation, the omega over kV mismatch persists. The rule G is falsified for the new channel geometry. It is not universally wrong. It is wrong for this new K regime. License consequence. The rule G is downgraded. Its scope SG is immediately narrowed to valid for river channel geometry as of last survey date. A new rule, G new, must be developed for the new geometry. Until then, operators must use increased uncertainty and direct measurement, not blind trust in the old model. In Holophase science, the river system is a complex phi pattern. The sensors are our measurement windows. The hydraulic model is our scientific rule. The silted sensor is a K failure in our phi sentence. The scout channel is a change in the phi pattern itself that moves the system outside the rule's license scope. The diagnostic protocol prevents two disasters: opening the gates based on a false high water reading, acting on a sentence failure, and continuing to use the old model after the river has changed, leading to poor flood control or irrigation, failing to recognize a rule scope violation. This discipline is the rigorous application of the episode 11 axioms. Rules do not become real by elegance, consensus, or tradition. They earn a license only by surviving falsification, variation, independence, and scope discipline. The failure diagnostic is the ultimate enactment of these axioms when faced with contradiction. It provides the procedure for surviving falsification by checking if the falsifying sentence is valid, and for enforcing scope discipline by checking if the failure is due to a scope exit. And the cardinal rule? When a rule fails, we do not believe harder. We tighten, downgrade, or retire its license. The diagnostic protocol tells us which action to take. If it's a sentence failure, we tighten our measurement protocols. If it's a rule failure, we downgrade or retire the rule. We never respond by believing the rule more fervently in the face of a valid, scope-compliant, contradictory sentence. The skill you gain from this part is diagnostic triage. You learn to respond to anomalous data not with emotion, but with a systematic checklist. Your first instinct becomes check the instrument, check the calibration, check the assumptions, check the scope. Only after this exhaustive audit do you allow yourself to entertain the earth-shattering possibility the rule itself might be wrong. This skill is the hallmark of a mature scientist and a reliable engineer. This skill has immediate, vital application. In clinical trials, a new drug fails to beat a placebo. Is it a rule failure? The drug is ineffective? Or a sentence failure? Perhaps the diagnostic criteria for patient selection, the K definition of the disease, were ambiguous, enrolling people without the condition. Perhaps the outcome measurement, pain scale, a omega subjective measure, was poorly designed. The diagnostic protocol demands we audit the trial's sentence pipeline before discarding the drug. A telescope detects a strange signal that seems to violate known physics. Is it new physics, rule failure, or a sentence failure? It could be radio interference from a satellite, V artifact, a flaw in the data reduction software, omega K artifact, or an instrumental glitch. The first years of analysis are devoted to ruling out these sentence failures. In machine learning, a deployed face recognition system performs poorly on a new demographic group. Is the core model flawed, rule failure, or is the failure in the input data pipeline, sentence failure? Perhaps the lighting conditions, K, or image preprocessing, omega V, differ for this group, creating a distorted input sentence. Fixing the pipeline may resolve the issue without retraining the model. In financial regulation, a bank's risk model fails during a crisis. Did the model's rules fail, G failure? Or did the input data, market prices, correlations, become corrupted or non-representative, sentence failure, during the crisis? The diagnostic dictates whether to scrap the model or improve the data feeds. Finally, let us summarize the epistemic function of this part. Let us crystallize what we have built. We have defined the falsifying sentences versus falsifying rules distinction. This is the firewall's master diagnostic protocol for when predictions mismatch observations. It forces a disciplined separation between failures in the measurement reconstruction of fee sentences and failures in the constraint rules themselves. The firewall acts as a failure diagnostician. It mandates auditing the sentence pipeline for omega, K, and V reconstruction errors before considering rule falsification. Energy tally mismatches are treated as symptoms prompting a pipeline check. The explicit prediction for sentence-level failure is restoration of coherence. Fixing the measurement pipeline resolves the mismatch and restores agreement with the rule. The explicit falsification condition for a rule is persistent mismatch after pipeline correction, a systematic omega KV disagreement that survives a full audit of the sentence and confirmation of scope compliance. The license consequence is binary action. Patch the sentence pipeline, or downgrade, retire the rule. This strengthens the firewall by providing its core crisis management algorithm. It is the procedure that keeps the entire system stable and self-correcting. When faced with contradiction, the firewall does not panic, it diagnoses. This ensures that our body of licensed rules is constantly refined by honest feedback from reality, while being protected from corruption by faulty instrumentation and human error. With this diagnostic protocol, the firewall is now a complete self-regulating system. It can admit new rules through a strict licensing gauntlet, and it can diagnose and rectify failures in existing ones. This is the engine of scientific progress. Not blind faith, not chaotic revolution, but disciplined diagnostic evolution. Yet, even with perfect diagnostics, a final, powerful check remains. A rule might pass all tests on one pipeline, with one set of instruments. But what if that entire pipeline shows a hidden flaw? What if the rule is an artifact of that specific way of looking? This leads us to the ultimate validation step: convergence across independent pipelines. Salam and peace be upon you.